recorded.
Okay, good evening and welcome to the Salbridge Town Council meeting of Monday, February 22nd, 2021 at 7 p.m. This meeting is being conducted via remote participation. Calling this meeting to order pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 38, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Town Council is being conducted via remote participation only. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to view this meeting while in progress may do so by watching Salbridge Cable Access Channel 192 or by the remote information which is noted below. We'll post a record of this meeting on the town's website at www.ci.salbridge.ma.us as soon as we are able to. A roll call vote is required for all votes taken under this order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Counselor Adams.
Present.
Counselor Daniel.
Present.
Counselor Dow.
I don't know where he is. Doing absent right now.
Okay. Counselor Catrona.
Present.
Counselor Jovan.
Present.
Counselor Waldo.
Present.
Counselor Marquetti.
Present.
Counselor Ryan.
Present.
And Counselor Steve.
Present.
We do have a quorum. Agenda item 3, considering accepting town council meeting minutes of Monday, February 8th, 2021. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there
Second.
a second? We have a motion and a second. Any errors, corrections, or omissions? Councilor Steve?
Yeah, just one quick one. Under item number 24, it says that I made the motion, but seconded by Councilor, who knows? Go straight to the vote. So I don't remember who seconded it.
Okay, we'll check the transcript to make sure that it's adequately correct. All right, you have that, Mary?
Yep, I'll check the video and check that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any other errors, corrections, or omissions? Anyone? Seeing none, roll call.
Counselor Adams.
Yes.
Counselor Daniel.
Yes.
Counselor Catrona.
Yes.
Counselor Jovan.
Yes.
Counselor Lazo.
Yes.
Counselor Marquetti.
Yes.
Counselor Ryan.
Yes.
And Counselor Steve.
Yes.
All set? All right. Item 4. Reports. General Government Council, Steve's.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, we met on the 17th. Items numbers 11 to 13 on tonight's agenda were on our agenda. I do not currently have anything scheduled, and I will address them when we get to them.
Thank you. Department of Public Works, Councilor Marquetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We haven't had any meetings, but I do have a meeting scheduled for March 2nd, 2021 at 6 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Education and Human Services, Councilor Catrona.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Education Human Services Subcommittee did hold a meeting on Thursday, the 18th of February. Number 10 on tonight's agenda, and I will discuss it during that time. No meeting scheduled. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor. Planning and Development, Councilor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, we did have a meeting on 17 February. Items discussed are on tonight's agenda, which are 14 through 17. Our next meeting is 1 March. We'll be discussing the EBIP and liquor licenses I do want to note that I have a CMRPC meeting on 11 March as well to discuss equity and diversity solutions-based planning priorities or practices. So I'll brief that on the next town council meeting after that. Thank you.
Thank you. Protection of persons and property, Council Lazo.
We have no report at this time and no meeting scheduled, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Special committee reports, COVID-19 public health and safety briefing. I do see Chief Norman here, but I'll just start that our Emergency Operations Center meetings do continue. We had one this morning. I'd like to thank everybody that participates in those meetings. We're starting to see positive movements in the number of cases in town. We are going to transition from a bi-weekly to a monthly Emergency Operations Center meeting going forward. We've also added, and I'll let Chief Norman elaborate a little bit more on this as well, on the emergency dispensing site operations that he is the commander of as well. Roland Larochelle from the Board of Health has joined our Emergency Operations Center so that we can bridge a gap between the town side and the emergency dispensing site. So that's a great addition to our Emergency Operations Center. Chief Woodson just did ask me to convey to the council and the community that there will be another Facebook Live event on March 9th at 11:30 a.m. So keep an eye out for that. And just for the record, Councilor Dow is present for Madam Secretary. Chief Normanton, if you have anything, and then Mr. Pelletier if he has anything. So Chief.
So good evening, everybody, through the chair. Very productive week or so. Obviously, most of you know that the 65 and over has been accepted to start getting appointments, along with the people that have two comorbidities or a past medical history in regards to that. The center continues to move very efficiently. We've gotten some people in to change the parking and flow of traffic scheme. You may have noticed if you've been down in that area, we've added 2 signboards, multiple areas where there's signs of no parking. The police department, Chief Woodson and the group down there have worked very diligently to try to keep the flow of traffic moving. The data that we're getting back from Harrington right now is that over the last week, they've been doing 500 plus inoculations to citizens and residents from the area. It is going very, very well. We are doing these emergency dispensing site meetings on a weekly basis on Mondays at 11 o'clock. So I urge any counselors and townspeople that are on tonight, please get us our questions to get answered by the Harrington group, or we can answer those questions prior to those meetings. It's been going really, really well. That's all I can really say. It's been good, and we continue to receive doses from the state, from the governor's office. So there's no fear of us being shut down at any point in time right now as we move forward. So, any questions?
Questions? Councilor Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, Chief, you commented to Chief Normanton. You commented that the number of vaccines coming to our town hasn't been disrupted. A number of communities have been getting their numbers lowered and relocated to mass vaccination sites. And that was my question was, is there any intention to do that to Salbridge? And that was my question was.
Mr. Chair, if I could answer?
Yes, go ahead, Chief.
So yes, that is a perfect analogy that you put forth. We were told that all state sites were the ones that were only going to get the vaccines. Working with Mr. Moore from the hospital and myself, we've contacted several of the legislators and the congressmen from the state, along with Lieutenant Governor Polito. They guarantee us at this point in time that we will not be cut any doses. I will say that this actually really has to do with us being very proactive from the beginning of this, putting up our site and working in conjunction with the hospital. They know that our site is really the only site in the southern Worcester County area between the Gillette site and the Springfield site, although I do know Worcester State University just put up a site, but we're much more advanced than them. So as of right now, today, as we sit,
town
we're good
council
for
right now.
vaccines, but I'm not exactly sure,
I went to
be going from there, but-
gotomeeting.com.
Whoops.
I just muted him. Go ahead, Chief.
So yes, to answer your question, Council Ryan, we are still guaranteed the vaccinations as we move forward, just because of everything we've done prior to today and the previous months before us.
If I may continue, I just want to say that's amazing. First off, that you're doing so well that the state's going to continue to support your program. That there's larger communities with higher density of cases who are seeing theirs rerouted. And I think that speaks to the success of Southbridge in its response. And it's thanks to the EOC and to you, Chief Normandin, and to the Board of Health for really being on the ground and being really proactive. So thank you all. That's amazing that we're not getting cut.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council Ryan. Yeah, it is kudos to all that are involved, that we really have been proactive since the start of this pandemic to ensure that we were at the front of the line. And we thank the hospital for their assistance in that. We are ramping up to approximately 500 to 600 doses a day. So we are, even though we're not as large as the state-run sites, we are a large site for that area for Harrington Hospital. So we continue to march on, and it is kudos to everybody that's been involved from day one in the Emergency Operations Center. So and I think it did help that Congressman Neal did come to visit our site as well to see what we were doing here at the local level. So thank you to all that's involved. Mr. Pelletier, do you have anything else you want to add from the Board of Health aspect?
I can give you the updates on the Southbridge. I know I give it to the councilors every day, but anybody who's on is probably interested in this information. As of right now, we have 1,551 total cases since the onset of this, at least total cases that have been reported through Maven. It's possible there have been cases prior to Maven being kicked up or being enhanced, and also probably a lot of cases that have never been reported because they were never diagnosed. But 1,551 cases with a population of 16,900, that's bordering on 10%. We're right at the 9% mark of the total population. Glad to say that we seem to be moving towards a low right now. We're entering our third week without having one day of more than 10 cases. The last day we had of more than 10 cases was the 7th of February. In the last 5 days, we have had no school-age children reported through Maven. So definitely some positives going in the right direction. The town still, however, remains in the red. Our positivity rate, which was hovering between 11% and 13%, the last 2 weeks has dropped below 10. We are in the 8s right now. In order to get out of the red, we will need to have that drop further into the 5% or below 5%. So we still have a bit of a ways to go. 5% for the town of less than 10 cases average per 100,000 population means we have to do within a 14-day period, we can't have more than 23 cases. So that's all statistical math of the cases per 100,000. Last thing about Southbridge is going to be the football is being looked at the schools. They want to kick it off on Monday. I've got their plan on how they're going to comply with the COVID guidance. I'm reviewing the plan now. It's a very short plan, but when I have to compare it to the guidance from the state, it's an involved project. Massachusetts has seen 1.4 million doses injected into people so far, persons vaccinated. With a population of 6.9 million, that gives us about a 20% population. So in the 2 months we've been doing this, Massachusetts has hit 20% of the population. Other information, I reported it the other day, the travel restrictions have been lifted on North Dakota and Puerto Rico. So now safe travel destinations are North Dakota, Puerto Rico, and Hawaii. States are still moving in the in the direction to get on that list too, so. Other than that, not a whole lot to report. I think as much has been in the news as I can give you right now. So, thank you.
Any questions, comments, concerns? Councilor Adams?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to remind the public that the public information page, which is the red banner on the town's website, is updated as of today. The numbers are as of Sunday, but phone numbers are on there to be able, for those individuals who are not computer savvy, to register online. We do have phone numbers to the community center. We do have phone number to the YMCA for you to be able to be registered. The best bet is for those that are computer savvy, to go onto Harrington Hospital's link, which we provided today as well, a few weeks ago, to click on there, or the mass.gov, but you have better luck at this point in time going to the Harrington Hospital / Salbridge site for Salbridge residents. That's where I would recommend. And if you have any questions to the public or to the town councilors, please don't hesitate to ask. There's a lot of information flowing, and it changes day by day, minute by minute. So just want to pass that information on. And because Mr. La Rochelle has been appointed as the vaccination kind of point of contact for the town of Southbridge, he has asked me and Chief Woodson to post some information with a possible site where it would support non-mobile individuals within the town of Southbridge, and I'll be posting that very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Council Marquetti?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, through you, I just want to thank everyone involved in setting this up at the senior center. I have finally got a date for me to get the vaccination. I'm looking on March 5th. And I know I've talked to a couple other people, and they've been able to get in by calling the senior center. So thank you very much. I think you guys are doing an excellent job.
Thank you, Council. Council Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A quick question and then a comment. Through you to Andy. You mentioned the grand total of counts. Can you give us a quick update on how many people have recovered and how many are currently active?
If you can bear with me for 1 second.
Okay. And while you're doing that, I'll make the comment that I was going to make then, which is simply to say thanks to the Team Rubicon people who have been coming down to the dispensing center, because they're coming in from all over the place. And I was talking to a couple people from the Bedford area, and it's nice to see them coming into our town to help us out. So thanks to them.
Thank you, Council. Really, I was down there today. It really is quite an operation that a lot of people in and out. I saw a lot of Southbridge residents in there as well. So it's great. The flow of how it goes and the work between the partnership between the town and Harrington Hospital has been great. And we look forward to getting through this and hopefully wrapping this up midsummer, hopefully earlier. Mr. Pelletier?
We have 1,463 persons who have recovered from the disease, from the COVID. I review each case before. I don't do the contact tracing anymore. I sent that over to CTC, but I do the closing of every case or review every single case, and I ensure that they are recovered and haven't passed or anything, or aren't still sick. We have 62 active cases right now that continue to be monitored. And unfortunately, we have 28 persons who have passed due to direct result of the COVID. The only time I'm reporting them as deceased on the COVID report is if the cause of death on the death certificate says COVID or COVID related. So there may be a higher number in Southbridge that get attributable to pneumonia or other complications. But I have recorded death certificates, 28 that at least mention COVID on them.
And to follow up with that, actually, do you also know how many people have seen repeat cases? Because you're starting to see some of those. I don't know if in town, but
they're starting to pop up. But I got to tell you, I have this uncanny ability, and I don't know why, but when I see a name, I recognize it, and I go looking for it in the past because I I have a record of everybody. And it's not that big a number. I'm gonna say right now, it's less than 40. It's not a huge number that like I have one from last November that just showed up again. But it's not a huge number.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Okay, seeing none. Moving on to chairman's announcements. The only announcement that I have for this evening is that I anticipate doing the hybrid meeting in the council chambers at our next meeting on March 8th. I was going to try to do somewhat of a test run tonight where I would be in the council chambers and try to see how that worked. However, I just couldn't pull it off with the cable company, but they assure me that all of their technology work has been completed as of late last week. So we will, I know there's a couple subcommittee meetings next week or in 2 weeks. I don't know if a subcommittee may want to try to do a meeting there, perhaps planning and development or something like that, that would feel comfortable in that to do a test run. But I anticipate the next regular council meeting will be, the councils will be in the council chambers and we will do the remote access. And to any council that would not feel comfortable being in the council chambers, that is fine. You can participate remotely as you have done in the past, but I do anticipate a hybrid meeting with council in chambers and the ability for parties to participate remotely as we do now. Any questions on that? Councilor Adams?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a reminder, I won't be around at that period of time. So I would love to help out on that, but I won't be available.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Marquetti?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm glad that we're going back to the town hall, and I'm sure that it's going to be thoroughly clean, but I just want to emphasize that I hope that the place is completely cleaned and disinfected, and something done about the bats. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions come out? Seeing none. Town manager announcements, Mr. Town Manager.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have too much to add since our council the whole of last week. I would pass on that Heather Blakely, DPW Director, today informed me that Mass DOT was out doing some field work relative to the inspection of the Mill Street Bridge. She interpreted that as good news, so we're going to wait to hear back from them whether we can be reopening that bridge anytime soon. So as soon as we get that information, we'll forward it. I did forward to Councilor Adams and our Veteran Service Agent, Keith Roberts, a message that came in from Senator Fatman's office today. They're doing essentially a drive for veterans. They have received gracious donations of coats for veterans. If anybody is interested who's a veteran who wants or needs a coat, they can contact my office, Senator Fatman's office, or Keith Roberts, our Veteran Service Agent over at the Community Center, and we'd be happy to direct them where they can get the coat or the additional information. And the only other piece of information I would pass on, I mentioned it earlier this morning, and Chief Norman and I talked about it, as well as Mr. Pelletier, is we're monitoring our positivity rate. As you noticed, as the vaccine is rolled out and people continue to social distance, many communities in the Commonwealth are falling back from high-risk communities to moderate and even into the green area. And so as we continue to have a lower and lower positivity rate, we will look at reopening the town hall based on our precautions. I think if we drop out of the high-risk red, that's what drove us into closing the doors to the public. If we cross that threshold backwards for at least 2 weeks, I foresee us opening the doors to the public again, especially with the nice weather and people being out. And we can leave the doors open. It should be a welcome change to most folks at Town Hall and in the public. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Any questions on the Town Manager's report? Seeing none. Moving on, presentations. We have no presentations this evening. Citizens Forum. Is there anyone in the remote land that wishes to address the council?
I have
hold on.
one. This is Maureen Doyle.
Hold on one second. Let me finish. Please state your name and your address for the record.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I thought you were finished. Maureen Doyle, 771 Lebanon Hill. I just wanted to let people know that tomorrow, Tuesday, February 23rd, at 6 p.m. via Zoom, is the Charlton Host Community Agreement process for the proposed liquefied natural gas facility at 304 Southbridge Road. And that's the continuation of Worcester Street. It's 169 in Southbridge. And some people might be near there. Okay, so I have the Zoom address, and so I'll just say it. https://us02 web zoom us oh no, I'm sorry, /J /874894428885. So if people are interested in learning about that process, they can attend via Zoom. Thank you.
Mr. Town Manager?
I was going to suggest maybe Ms. Doyle could cut and paste that into the chat to everybody, and that way they could have it and pass it along. And
excellent idea. I was going to suggest that, and then I forgot. So
I did reach out to our contact that I've been working with at the EPA to find out a little bit more about what was going on in Charlton. Once the permit is issued, there will be a comment process. I provided some information previously. And so we could hold a similar option to have a comment period here in Southbridge once that permit is issued. So I'm monitoring that. As soon as they issue the permit, they'll let us know, and we could set something up and have an evening where we could take public comment from citizens in Southbridge. So I'll keep you posted on that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Any other residents wish to address the council on anything not on the agenda this evening?
Yes,
Corey,
I would.
Go ahead, Corey. Just state your name and your address, please.
Okay, Corey Allery, 48 Forest Ave. Just a question to the town manager. The status of the Charter Communications contract.
Mr. Town Manager?
The timing is appropriate as we are working on our public notice for the public hearing that we need to hold. We're going to schedule that for March 25th at approximately 6 o'clock. I'll be publishing the notice. I have to send it out to Charter Communications. We met with our cable advisor, our cable council, I should say, as well as members of the cable committee and the cable staff to discuss our assessment and needs. And so the next step for me on our side is to hold that public hearing. Someone like yourself will have the opportunity to come in and voice your opinion, what you want to see come from Charter during these negotiations. We will invite Charter, if they so choose to appear, to have a seat at that table as well. And all those questions and comments we will bring back during the negotiations with our council. So that publication will be going out on our website within the next few days. It'll be mailed out to Charter, as I said, and then it'll be published in the local paper at least twice.
Okay. Any other residents wish to address the council? Any other residents? Seeing none. Moving on. Item 10. Vote to confirm the appointment of Emily Quinn as a full-time sanitary and health inspector effective March 1st, 2021, pending completion of the state ethics training. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. I'll start with the town manager first, then we'll go to the recommendation of the subcommittee, then any questions. Mr. Pelletier as well. So, Mr. Town Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This evening, we're happy to introduce to you Emily Quinn, who is the finalist for the sanitary health inspector position. As many of you may know, Mr. Pelletier and I came before the committee, the council and the subcommittee late last year, expressing our desire and our need to fill this position. We did go through an interview process late last year, and we did come down to a candidate. However, that candidate could not take the position. But Mr. Pelletier, I'm sure, will be happy to tell you that when we did the second round of interviews, he is very pleased with the candidate that we've selected for you this evening, who we think is the most qualified candidate and even better than some of the ones that we saw in the first round. Ms. Quinn is a byproduct of the local area. She comes from Dudley. She has a degree in public health from the UMass Amherst, part of the UMass system. She has experience in the food service industry. She's done an intern at Walt Disney World in their customer service and food industry, where we feel some of her answers demonstrated that she has more than enough character and experience to handle the job doing some of the inspections here in the town. And we believe that she has the desire and the knowledge to learn and work with the department and grow and be part of the Salbridge community and family for some time to come. And with that, I will hand it over to Mr. Pelletier.
Mr. Pelletier.
If I may, as Mr. McCall just alluded to, we sent this out for interested parties on 2 different occasions. I mentioned it to the subcommittee, and I'll mention it again. I'm actually rather pleased that the person we offered it to in the first round refused it, because I feel that our final selection in this round is a superior candidate. Ms. Quinn comes to us with a bachelor's degree in public health. She has 5 years in the food industry, where I know I spent a little bit of time in the food industry, and you are dealing with departments of public health and making sure you meet their criteria. You're familiar with the codes and everything. So I feel a confidence that Ms. Quinn can handle the codes. She's used to dealing with the codes. Another thing that actually took me was she worked on the Tavern on the Common, where she was arranging live productions and coordinating schedules. Having worked for a show choir, I know that managing large productions is not the easiest thing on earth, and it takes a amazing ability to multitask. So by doing that, she's kind of shown me that she can take on projects that I might assign her in order to advance the environmental and public health aspects of the town of Southbridge. I feel that Miss Emily is a highly qualified person, or maybe not highly qualified yet. We will get there, but she is definitely qualified. She meets the criteria of our job description. And I'm just really excited about getting her on board and kind of tweaking her experience into what we need here in Southbridge.
Thank you, Mr. Pelletier. Recommendation of the EHS subcommittee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The recommendation was 3-0 to move Emily Quinn forward to council for a vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, comments for the town manager or Mr. Pelletier? Councilor Dow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, to you. Mr. Andy, so what exactly she being covering? The house inspection regarding food, or the house inspector? What's her job specific? What she's gonna be covering there? Because what I know, I have another health inspection that now, so I'm not sure what she really specific is gonna be covering.
As many of the council probably know, Ms. Maritza is my primary food inspection. I expect that Ms. Quinn will assist her on the larger inspections, such as the grocery stores that take hours and hours. But my plan is to keep Maritza as the food inspector. Emily will be taken on as the housing and nuisance inspector. So if somebody calls with an environmental nuisance, or if somebody calls with a concern about the housing conditions they live in, Miss Emily will be my primary respondent to those type of concerns. As we move forward with her training, she will probably be taking on some projects. Things like a electronics take back program or a tire return program. She'll probably help us significantly with our Beautify Salbridge program that we try to hold every year, although it's looking dismal this year because of the social distancing and stuff. But initially out of the gate, she will be primarily nuisance and environmental, and move into pools and other such inspections.
So how many member you will have at the office after?
How many people in the department?
Correct.
Well, the department encompasses 2 sub-departments, if you will. So on the building side, I will have a building inspector, a pending local inspector, and a half-time admin. On the Board of Health side, I will have a inspector, myself, Miss Maritza, and then special positions. We will still have Miss Anna doing recycling and overseeing the final capping of the landfill. And Mr. Hector will be doing curbside enforcement, continuing to improve our trash program.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Andy, you said a pendant inspector. What is that? What is that position?
That is, it was recently vacated by Kevin Laughlin. That is a position that is 100% funded through CDBG. It's a part-time position to proactively identify blighted conditions before they become blighted and get them corrected. This is a position that we approved through CDBG to look at the multifamilies in town.
No, thanks for the clarification. I wasn't aware that that part-time person had left. So thank you for that information. All right, who did I have next? Councilor Marquetti, then Steves, and then Councilor Adams. Did you have your hand up as well? Yes, you did. Okay. All right, go Councilor Marquetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. Now, I looked at this position that was posted online, sanitary and health inspector, qualifications and experience were posted, bachelor's degree in public health. The candidate does have a bachelor's degree in public health, but 3 years experience in a field offering exposure to environmental, sanitary health mandates. I don't see that experience on her resume. There'll be various certificates that she'll be required to get as a health inspector, food handler, code lead determination inspector, pool operator, soil evaluator, all these things the town's gonna have to pick up on that. The posted salary is $52,711 per year. Like I said, the candidate does possess the bachelor's degree, I agree, but not the experience. I did get an email today from the town manager and explaining some of the qualifications required for this position. One thing that he said was that the grant was going to pay part of this position, a certain percentage. And I think the grant is irrelevant because, basically, the grant can easily pay somebody who's qualified for the position as well as someone who's not qualified for the position. He also said that he mentioned some other things about a UMass public health club. Well, this is just a club. I don't think this is for training purposes. I mean, there were other clubs at UMass. There's an aeronautics club. I think that if I went to the aeronautics club, I would still need some time in flight school before I could get a job flying a Boeing 747. I don't think they're going to hand me the keys for that because I belong to the aeronautics club. But anyways, when I asked at the subcommittee level about the candidate's qualifications, the director said that he liked her brassiness. He didn't mention any of these other things. I don't think brassiness is a qualification that I'm looking for in somebody to work at the town hall. The town manager mentioned her time at Walt Disney World. To me, this is an entry-level candidate based on the job posting that was advertised and reviewing the applicant's resume. I find she does not meet the requirements for the job. So I'll be voting no on this agenda item tonight. Thank you.
Councilor Steves.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was thinking along some of the similar lines that Councilor Marquetti said. However, I was more specifically concerned with what time frame are you expecting Ms. Quinn to get all of this various certification that is listed in the job description?
If I may, based on the budget, based on the acumen that Ms. Quinn showed us with her 3.28 GPA, I expect that passing these tests will not be an issue with her. Many of these requirements are 1 or 2 day trainings. The pool class is a 2-day training. The lead determinator is a 1-day training, and then a couple of apprentice preps with some of the state inspectors. So I envision that within the first year, she will be pool certified and lead determinator certified. There was one other one that I want. Oh, Title V and soils. I am fully certified in that. I will be bringing her out on any Title Vs so she can get real world experience. This certification is a little bit more advanced, a little bit more involved. So I envision within the first 2 to 3 years, we will get her soils evaluator, and thereafter her inspection. She will be fully certified with everything I need to make her a fully functional, well-rounded, able to do any inspection job out there within 2 years. She will be functional within my department within 30 days.
Okay, and the other question I had is there I didn't see this in the job description. Is there a specific certification for or legal definition of sanitarium?
There is not. A lot of health departments look for an RS or a CHO as part of their requirements for their directors. I currently have the RS plus about 35 other certifications. There is no minimum requirement at the to become an inspector. I will tell you, when I became an inspector, I had a degree in physics, and my history was in demolishing buildings.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Adams?
I didn't raise my hand, Mr. Chair, but I'll pipe in real quick.
Okay.
No, it's okay. I think just reiterate what I talked about last time during the subcommittee meeting. Fact is, I understand that she's kind of new to this field and does have certain qualifications. And I've met people over the time that have all the qualifications under the sun and they're worthless as a penny on the ground. So I don't have a problem voting in favor of Ms. Quinn filling this position up. I do, like I said before, brashness is not always something that I would sit there and say is a good qualification when it comes to customer service. As just as a reminder, that is part of the position. But I will say, as I have faith in Emily to do the job with proper oversight, and you got to start from somewhere, because I think Chair Jovan had mentioned being a very young chief, given that opportunity. I know I was a drill instructor at the age of 23 years old, which was unheard of at the time in the Marine Corps. And, I think if faith and hope, everything works out. And I'm sure Mr. Pelletier, the town manager, will properly oversee her. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Lazo?
To the town manager, were there any candidates that had experience that were interviewed?
If I may, Mr. Chairman, through you to Councilor Lazo, I only took part in the final interview with the 2 leading candidates, and I can't say that the other candidate had experience in the health field than Ms. Quinn. She has code service as well as the food experience. I would point out that the document I passed out today, the way it's written, it says a bachelor's degree in public health or related field, 3 years of experience in a field offering environmental, sanitary health mandates, or an equivalent combination of education and experience. That's a disjunctive. It's not an and. It doesn't mean that they have to have all of those. So That last part that says an equivalent combination of education experience, that is what we're looking at here. And it also says have the ability to get licenses certified. So the person that applies doesn't have to have all of these things coming through the door, which is often the case in a position like this. And I did point out in my email earlier that our very successful predecessor in this position was a young lady who came in at the time, my understanding, with about the same level of experience that Ms. Quinn has, was able to handle the job and learn the job, and it did quite well at the job, as I understand, before she wound up taking a position closer to where she lived. So I think, going back to your point, Councilor Lazo, I don't think there was any difference between the two final candidates. We took them on their overall set of skills, their ability to deal with the public, how well they interviewed, how well we thought they would perform under the stress of the conditions. And those who also had a desire to come here and a desire to work for the town of Salbridge, and someone who expressed a commitment to staying here for a period of time.
I was concerned about the comment earlier about the brassiness. I mean, in public service, I gotta say, I mean, we've got enough brassiness in this town that offends more residents than we're worth. And then we as councilors get the fallout from the wonderful performance of some of the brassy people. But for me, I mean, we've trained many people, we've taken on people and trained them for the positions. I don't have a problem with that. As far as when we talk about qualifications and potential, we have to yield to management. And I hope that, you know, he has not smiled once on camera yet. And I turned around and looked at it and I said, the only two people not smiling is Andy and the town manager. Now, do you smile at all? Emily?
Sure, I can.
All right, very good. Thank you. I'm all set. Thank you.
Mr. Pelletier, do you want to comment? You had your hand up on your comments at the subcommittee.
I threw the word brassy out there, may have misused the word. Emily struck me as somebody who was going to take a stand. She's not going to get in people's faces. She's going to take a stand. She's going to know where she has to toe the line, and she's not going to back down from that. Her time at Disney World, anybody who's been to Disney knows you better have tact, but Disney has rules, and you stand by the rules. Emily, through 2 interviews, showed us that she was going to take that stand. She was going to hold that line. I specifically asked her, you know, if somebody's getting in your face, what happens? And, you know, after a couple of attempts at, well, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that, she says, you know something, Andy, at that point, I'm going to come to you. So she knows when to back down. She knows when to take a stand. I guess confidence would have been a better word than brassy.
Mr. Chairman?
I'll go to Council Lazo, then Council Dow. Go ahead,
Just a
Council.
quick comment. I mean, Andy, this is one of the things in Southbridge that the councilors have been trying to work with, as far as whether it's brassy, whether it's doing the right thing because it's the right thing is not a problem. But there's sometimes a person can tell somebody to go to hell, said properly, they'd look forward to the trip. But in some cases, it's not said properly. We don't handle the public properly, and it's more abrasive. And then all of a sudden, it looks like, you know, our employees are doing our townspeople a favor instead of them being public servants and moving forward with maybe a different approach. So, I mean, maybe brassy wasn't the right word to use, but my concern is when someone starts in their job, they have to be palms up, public servant, and work for the people of Southbridge. We understand we have irate. I deal with it with a lot of people that call up and they're yelling at me on the phone as a counselor. My approach is not to tell them anything brassy. My approach would be, can I sit down and talk with you? Maybe meet them on their property, understand their issue, also make them understand what our issues are and what our job is as town officials. That's what I'm looking for. I hope she possesses it. But on the other hand, I looked at the job description and what it does, and keeping people and removing people. We're not locked in if it doesn't work out. it's an employee at will, which I am willing to take a chance on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Lazo. Councilor Dow?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I think it's very, I recommend, I support her because of young generation and a young girl coming in, doing job like this, and we don't have too many new generation working at the town with the new technology and all that. My concern only if we willing to hire her and spend the time training her and she become professional. As she's gonna leave somewhere else after she be training. I mean, every young generation they need a chance. They need to work someplace and start at someplace, and that's okay. That's good. At least they want to try. But after we hire her and she got the training, she's gonna commit to stay in specific years, or no, anytime she can resign and leave, or anybody can answer that? Thank you.
Mr. Town Manager?
You know, that's a chance you take with any employee, and that's the relationship that you need to foster. And I asked, you could ask Mr. Pelletier or Ms. Farron, I asked a series of questions of both of the candidates who are finalists that were not necessarily direct, but were designed to generate a response that would give us a gut feel as to whether these people wanted to stay with this town, wanted to stay in this area, were committed to this profession. And it was based on Ms. Quinn's answers and her background that led me to make the choice of selecting her. So it was my gut feeling speaking with her. She comes from the area. She grew up in Dudley. She's been to Salbridge during the course of her time growing up in the area. She went to UMass. She has a lot of ties to the area. This is something she wants to do. She has family here. I have no reason to believe that, you know, in the first couple of years, while she's learning, she's going to be using this as a stepping stone and going elsewhere, if that's what people are concerned about. But you can take that risk with anybody. We've seen that in other employees that we've had here in my short time here. I've heard other department heads say we have people come in and get training and leave. You know, part of that is working down the road on our compensation and benefits package, but that's not really what we need to focus on here. We have a good candidate here this evening. The team that interviewed her believes that she will do the work and that she's committed to staying here, and that's why we brought her forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councilors? Councilor Daniel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Years ago, when I was looking for my health degree, I did look at public health school at UMass Amherst, and it was actually it was my first choice to go to because they were very highly rated and recommended. I had 2 children at home at the time, and I wasn't able to make the transportation work, so I was unable to go there. But I do still recall that they had a wonderful reputation and produced very bright and fine students. And considering that Ms. Quinn has pulled a 3.3 in that department, I feel very confident in terms of her background and educational abilities. I certainly understand Councilor Marchetti's concerns about the Public Health Club, but I know that UMass prides itself on providing experiences, real life experiences for their students. For 4 years, I worked as a student athletic trainer with the various athletic teams in conjunction with my working in sport management and sport medicine. And I'm certain that this Public Health Club provided opportunities for Ms. Quinn as well. So therefore, I'm going to support this appointment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Daniel. Any other councilors? Ms. Quinn, is there anything you want to add? I know it's very difficult to be on that other council stuff out to you. We want to make the best decision for the town of Southbridge. I feel that you're a very strong candidate. So I'd just like to hear from you about some of the comments of what drew you to Southbridge and your thoughts.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time first. But to be perfectly honest, I haven't found a single job that I was interested in the public health field since graduating. I've kept my eyes out. But this was the first real job I saw that I was like, this is perfect for me. It's close to home. It's close to my family, people that I love. It didn't even occur to me to come in and take the experience and just leave. It didn't occur to me, to be perfectly honest. I don't plan on moving anytime soon. I've briefly lived in Florida when I worked at Walt Disney World, and it's just not for me. So this is home. I understand the questions about my qualifications, but I am starting out. I have over 5 years experience in food service, coming up on 8 actually. That's basically all I've done. So I've worked with a variety of people. I've had to work with some very irate customers. So I feel comfortable stepping into the role, working with Andy. Thank you.
Thank you. So it sounds you have that confidence as opposed to the brashiness, as it was termed at the meeting. And certainly, sometimes words matter. I know personally, the town manager was very thoughtful in looking at this position and making sure that it was something that we needed and was a position that we held on to not fill. And it is needed, especially during this time of COVID. So I look forward. There's no doubt. I'm sure you have the drive to learn and continue development, and I look forward to supporting your candidacy for this. Are there any other questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, roll call, Madam Secretary.
Counselor Daniel. Oops.
Yes.
Counselor Daniel.
Yes.
Counselor Dow.
Yes.
Counselor Catrona.
Yes.
Counselor Jovan.
Yes.
Counselor Lazo.
Yes.
Counselor Marquetti.
No.
Counselor Ryan.
Yes.
Counselor Steves.
Yes.
And Counselor Adams.
Yes.
Congratulations. Congratulations, Emily. We look forward to working with you. Normally we'd be in Councilor Chambers and we could, high five or shake your hand, but we look forward to your working here in the town of Southbridge and your development and seeing you for a long time in the town of Southbridge working for us. So congratulations and look forward to seeing you out there. Thank you.
Councilors, I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Andy. Item 11, vote to approve the temporary poll relocation of all 5 precincts from the community center to the Salbridge Middle School High School for the annual election on Tuesday, June 8th, 2021, due to the COVID vaccinations. Is there a motion?
So moved.
For a second?
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Council Steves, did this come through you?
Yes, it did.
Sure.
It went through me on the 17th. We discussed it at some length. We voted unanimously to recommend the Torrey Road site. We did discuss the idea of doing it at Collab. We discussed a little bit about the idea of doing it outside of at the Common. And I understand that, in fact, ironically, just before the meeting, I got a phone call expressing concerns about doing it at the middle high school, primarily for the concerns about distance and getting there. And we did talk about the idea of having some sort of a system to shuttle people there from downtown. And I definitely hope that we can make that happen through COVID funding or otherwise. But we did unanimously approve it.
Thank you. Councilor Lazo, did you have a comment?
Yeah, just a quick comment. We've looked at this when I was on council the last time and we had 5 precincts. The construction of the new middle high school is the best option. With the big gym and the way it's set up, the way you can enter and leave the building would be more accommodating than even the Armory. But I commend the committee on coming up with that option. It's the best option. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. And I thank the town manager for working on this, as well as Dr. Villar, because he is willing to change dates of his in-service that he has with his teachers to because it was an in-service date. So he's going to accommodate us by making sure that there's no students there on an in-service date for the schools. And we really did. I certainly respect the comments that we heard at the subcommittee relative to the number of people that may walk and walkers that go to the polling place. Many of us spend a lot of time at the polling place. And I don't know, I'm sure we can work around some of those logistic issues, but the middle school, high school, especially with all the parking area as well, Council Lazo is conducive to that, as you mentioned. So, are there any other comments, concerns, Council Adams?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to I want to thank the town clerk, the town manager, yourself, because this is actually as part of conversation that we had in the Emergency Operations Center as well. So it just didn't have to do directly with COVID. It had to do with all the operational side of the town as well, things that continue to move the ship forward, even through the pandemic. So I just want to thank you guys for pushing this through and coming up with a sound decision. I'll be supporting this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. And it really did come down to the vaccination site and the ability to have to demobilize scheduling of people because the site would be down for a number of days and rescheduling second doses. So it really was an effort that we needed to undertake for a temporary basis given this pandemic that we are in. Councilor Marquetti?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. I understand the need to move from the community center, and this does look like the best location, but I have spent a lot of time at the polling place, and there are a lot of people who walk to go vote, and there's just no walking there to the new high school. So I hope that there is some way that some shuttle can be provided for people to go down there. At one time, somebody had proposed a sidewalk leading to the new high school, but that never happened. So that's all. I understand why it has to go there. Just saying that I would like to see people being able to get there. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Dow?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. So this is only one time on June 8th, or that's going to be all the time?
Just the June 8th election.
That's it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
And I know Maddie was here. Yeah, she is here. Madam Town Clerk. I do know she is still looking at, there's no guidance as to any early voting for the town elections. Correct, Maddie? If there's anything else you want to add on that?
If the only next election would be actually June of 2022. So we have a long time, but this is just a temporary for this year due to the COVID vaccinations.
No, the question was about how we have early voting at some time.
Right. We're still waiting. It's still in legislation. They are supposed to meet shortly to expand it from March 31st to June 30th. We're still waiting.
Thank you. So that would be an opportunity too for early voting if that gets approved.
Correct.
And there's all right. So, any other questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, roll call.
Counselor Dow,
Yes.
Counselor Catrona,
Yes.
Counselor Jovan,
Yes.
Counselor Lazo,
Yes.
Counselor Marquetti,
Yes.
Counselor Ryan,
Yes.
Counselor Steves,
Yes.
Counselor Adams,
Yes.
and Counselor Daniel.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 12, vote to approve the U.S. Department of Transportation Federal Aviation Administration grant application for design and construction of at the Salbridge Municipal Airport in the estimated amount of $7,690,000 with a matching 5% town share of $385,000. Is there a motion?
So moved.
So
Is there a second?
Second.
A motion is second. Mr. Town Manager first, and then we have the Airport Commission here, as well as John Henry from Stantec. And I did make him a presenter, so we do have some information on the board. So, Mr. Town Manager?
Yeah, I'll be very brief because I think the information from Mr. Clements and Mr. Henry would be more informative. But the long and short of it is we have an opportunity to secure funds for the repair and reconstruction of the runway. I did take part in some meetings up at the airport. I was invited by Mr. Clemens and Mr. Henry early on in with Mass DOT. They're requiring certain changes to the runway for safety reasons at the end, changing the angle of the taxiway. And there's also an issue of the overall pavement condition index. So they will get into the details, but like many of the projects that I've seen since I've joined here with the FAA, they're willing to fund the vast majority of it, provided, however, the state puts in 5% and the host community puts in 5%. And so the return on that investment is quite large, and it allows us to continue to operate the airport, which can be a source of transportation for the community and a way for certain people to come and go for economic development. And it also allows us to generate some revenue through the airport commission. And with that, I'll hand it over to Mr. Clements and Mr. Henry.
Thank you, Chairman Jovan. Rick Clements, Airport Commission Chairman. I had Ron Pluff, the airport manager, is online as well, and John Henry from Stantec Engineering. I want to thank the council for their past support on the airport. We've, through many years, many of you have been around, that we've supported a portion, 5% or less, for different jobs that have completed at the airport in the past. New administration building, new hangar, some repairs to previous aprons at the airport. And I think what really I want to say is, we've invested in this airport, and it is an economic engine for the town. A lot of people look at it as, what do we put money at the airport for? We have planes at the airport. We have 33 planes. Only 4 planes are from Southbridge. 4 owners are from Southbridge. That means there's 29 planes from out of town. That means those people come into Southbridge, they fuel up their cars on the way in. They may have dinner in Southbridge. They do repairs in Southbridge. There's an economic benefit to the town. As well as the flight school, we started off. The flight school started with 1 person. Now he has 3 part-time flight instructors that work with him. He just bought another plane to grow his flight service. We have a part-time mechanic that works at the airport. And just recently, we have New England Detailing, Airplane Detailing, Inc. is going to be coming in, taking over a hangar, and they're going to have 3 to 4 employees. So we're working on that hangar. So I just want to put out there that there is some economic benefit to the town, and putting these funds forward, it is growing, and we've done a great job over the last 5 years getting to where it is. The airport does put together a master plan, and what that does is it looks out 5 years and puts major projects, and we line them up. We line them up with the FAA because they give us funds each year, and we line them up with Mass DOT so they match up and we can do those projects. This particular project was going to be a 3-part project. But last year, with the CARES Act and the funding that was going on at the FAA decided that we should put it all together and do all 3 projects as a one-time project, basically rebuilding the whole airport. This is going to give us a brand new runway, brand new taxiways, a change to 2 of the taxiways, as the manager said, as well as all new lighting and cutting some vegetation on either end of the runways. You can see on the green, those are trees that need to be cut on either end of the runway on the slide you have in front of you. And so where this would be taken in small bites, it's coming all at one project as a whole project. And this would be completed over the town's fiscal year 2021 and 2022. It would start, the idea is to have Stantec Engineering complete their engineering and have bids out in April, have bids back by May 1st. And then we would apply to the FAA for the grant. And as soon as the grant comes back, we'd start the project, which would, with federal and how things move, it would probably be September before we'd start the project. We'd hope to get it done in the fall of this year, this calendar year. But if the weather gets difficult, like it has sometimes in the fall, in November, December, we'd split the project in half and do half the project in 2021 and half in 2022, complete the second half then. We did, the council did sign off on a feasibility study back last summer. It was $217,000. The town share of $10,800 was going to be paid through the revolving account of the airport. But due to the CARES Act, the FAA stepped up and paid 100% of that. So we've done $217,000 worth of work, which brings us to the 25% design phase. We've, with that feasibility study, we went through all the hurdles that the FAA required. Wildlife study, they did the approach and the reason for the trees. They looked at all the trees. I had a better study on that, as well as initial design. So to complete the project, we'd have to approve, item number 12, and then item number 13 is actually the actual engineering with Stantec. With that, basically, here's the numbers here on the screen for the project. 7.689 million is the total. The engineering is 688,000, and the actual construction looking at $7 million. Runways 3,500 feet long, so you get the runway and the taxiway both. That would be completed with this project. We talked in the subcommittee meeting about financing, and one of the thoughts that we brought forward was to use, we do have a 20-year solar lease at the airport, to use those funds that come in annually to pay back this portion, the $385,000 the town has to pay, use those funds to help pay back that portion over time. I haven't talked to the town manager since then, but I know he had looked into that, and he probably has some answers for you on that.
Thank you. Mr. Town Manager?
So one of the questions was about the funding. I did speak, I know Mr. Clements had traded some emails with Karen Harnois, our finance director, and I did speak briefly with Ms. Zawadski. I think both of them are on the line. But the long and short of it is the town could, when the applications are approved, and it's my understanding it wouldn't be till August, that time frame, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Clements or Mr. Henry, but one of the ways that we could do this is that the town, I was told the cleanest way would be for the town to bond this, the $385,000. We pay the bond and then have the airport commission through their revenues repay the town. And I was told that this is something that we've done in the past with other entities in the town. It's nothing out of the ordinary. So it would be a way for us to get the $7 million essentially of repairs. We would be able to bond it essentially for them, and they would repay us back. And it should, in theory, be based on the revenues generated at the airport and not coming directly from the taxpayers, which I know is a concern from many of the counselors the other night.
Thank you. Madam Finance Director, did you have something?
Yes, thank you. One of my concerns would be, though, I was looking at the balances that the airport revolving account has generated. And at the end of this past fiscal year, there was, I think, approximately 29,000 in the account. But the year before, the fiscal year ended with 12. So it seems like the airport is operating in a positive status, but I'm not sure that's going to generate enough revenue in order to pay the full amount if we were to go out to bond it. Now, Melissa sent me some information, if she wants to comment too, a little while ago, that she estimated what the payback would be on a 20-year bond on that. And that would be about $30,000 a year. And I'm just not really sure that the airport can generate that revenue to pay the town back. So I just wanted to caution that, and maybe has some additional information about some additional revenues that could come through. I'm not sure.
Okay.
And perhaps, if I may, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Clements and Mr. Henry did, in my prior conversations, talk about the revenue that there should be collecting now from some of the solar projects that are up there, and maybe they can add to the conversation.
Mr. Clements, did you have anything? No. Councilor Steve, from your subcommittee?
Yes, we did eventually discuss it at significant length. We did vote on recommending to do it. Specifically, what we did is let's find the exact phrasing. We had specifically phrased it that we recommend to support the seeking the grant, provided that the town manager and the airport commission work together to secure the funding.
Okay, thank you. Councilors, comments? Councilor Dow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. That project in the future, if the money's not enough, they're gonna come back and ask the town of Salbridge for the money if they need extra. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Just to clarify, who to come back for more money?
The project, who's doing the project? Like sometime they need more money to finish the project, it's not enough. They're gonna ask the town of Salbridge for the, if it's any extra.
Oh, okay, when it goes out to bid. Mr. Clements?
Or start the construction.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Clements.
Through you, Chair, Mr. Chair, there is a 7% added into the project for overage. I think it's about $480,000 that's built into the project number. John, if you put that screen back up, I think it shows it with the numbers in there.
Okay, so there is a contingency built in.
Yeah. Okay. No, there is one built in. About 400,000.
Okay. I'll go to Councilor Catrona. Do you have a question? Comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just quick question to start. I did attend the subcommittee. There were a lot of very good questions asked, answered. If the town manager knows the average revenue from the solar project at the airport, and if so, how long would it take us to pay back or how long would it take them to pay back $385,000?
So I would have to get an answer from Mr. Clemens about the potential revenue that's coming in the solar project. I do not have the projected debt schedule for the $385,000, but I think you heard Ms. Harnoy say that it would be approximately $30,000 a year over 20 years. So, Mr. Clemens, do you have anything to comment about potential revenue to cover that?
The solar lease that we have is like the rest of the town. They increase over time, over the 20-year lifespan. Right now, the solar is approximately generating 19,800, and I think it ends close to 29,000 near the end of its lease period. So it is not, the 30,000 that Karen stated would be needed for a bond. 100%.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Thank you, Mr. Clemens. If I can continue, I think it's a great deal that the DOT is granting the airport $7 million. The timing for the town share, I don't think could be worse. This is a difficult decision for myself. The town's already burdened, I think, with additional expenses, both present and future. They're giving us over $7 million, and it costs us, I can say, only $400,000 almost. But I did exchange an email today with the town manager. I did make a recommendation, and I hope that's been taken into consideration, if not now, for the budget season. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll go, I think Council Lazo was next.
I think the deal that we're working out with what the feds are putting up with and what we have to put up is a good deal. I think Council Catrona brings up, quite a few points that are good points. But the thing is, I've always been a supporter of the airport all the way back into the late 80s. And the big question that comes out when this project or a project like this comes up is, are we in the airport business or are we not going to be in the airport business? And I think now, in this snapshot in time, this airport commission has done a great job. with the refurbishing of so many things at the airport. It's not the old rundown hangar that we used to see. I think that at this point here, I'm definitely in favor. I think they've shown that they can handle construction projects up there, get them completed on time, under budget. And like all construction projects, they have a 7% contingency. I think that's a good number for a project this size. All the indicators show that they should get a green light tonight. And yes, we do have work ahead with whether it's the solar panels, revolving fund, or how we fund this. I think we cannot not do this job. The money that's being put into our facility and the money that we're putting up for our facility is a good deal. And I think that on our part, I am going to support it. And we will find a way to fund that $300,000. I think the airport commission and the manager and, council can work this out with our finance department. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Ryan? You all set? Council Marquetti?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. But $7.7 million is a lot of money to turn away. I do agree with Councilor Catrona. This is a lot of money that we'll have to fork out, but this is one of those grants that I support. The state of Massachusetts, we send a lot of money to the federal government in our taxes, and it's good to see some of it come back to the state of Massachusetts. I know a lot of it goes to states, mostly states down south that don't put as much money in tax revenue into the federal government. So this is a grant that I'll support. I do think it's probably time that we look at increasing landing and storage fees at the airport. And I'd also like to say that going forward, I don't want to hear any complaints about the electric car charging stations because only 4 people in town own electric cars. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Council Marquetti. Council Steves?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to follow up a second from a previous speaker. I want to figure out through you to Mr. Clements or Mr. Pluff, what other income that has come in from the airport, some figures that can add to the solar income, and what's your projected growth in terms of like landing fees and tie downs and the number of people you want to that the airport might have space for to add to those things, if you know.
As far as landing fees, we don't charge a landing fee. There are storage fees. We have to stay with what the commission does. Is we go through a 50-mile radius to a 100-mile radius and see what other airports are doing in the area. There's really the only people that may charge a fee is Worcester, being a large airport. So there are no really growth on landing fees. We do the same on hangar fees and tie downs because a plane, somebody can just fly to another airport. So we have to be reasonable. So they do inch up the prices. We review rates every July at the end of the fiscal year. We review the rates for the following year on the hangars, and we do expect some slight increase going into 2022, the fiscal 2022 year. As I mentioned earlier, we do have a business coming in, which will they detail planes. So like you drive your car in to get a detail, people will be flying their planes in. By flying their planes in, they'll be buying fuel. And as the more fuel goes up, our revenue on fuel increase. The new fuel farm that was put in last year has already, over the month to month, year to year, our sales have gone up because the fuel farm is much easier to get to. The last one was in the corner, and people didn't like getting down there with their plane. This one's right out front. And we have a lot of people that fuel up there, as well as the diner helps bring in planes to fuel up. If you go up there on the weekend, you may get a flying club come in from New York, and that brings in. So the fuel sales is going to be our biggest revenue generator that we can point to. If you want to look at what we can point to as revenue generation, I can't give you the exact number of what we sold last year, but we expect to increase probably about 3% in sales this year. And so that's going to be our biggest revenue generator going forward. We do have, just to add on, we do have some folks that are coming in and looking to build private hangars. We can lease land to a private owner, so that the airport gets the lease money for the square footage, but the town gets tax revenue for the building. So that's another area we're looking at growing. We have one group of people that are coming in that want to build another 16 hangar, so it's 6 planes, and one other person looking at building a private hangar, like a 50 by 50 hangar for their plane. So those are what we have to look to. John might have something else for that as well.
John Henry from Stantec.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair and Council, and Rick, nice job with the summary. I think it's worth noting also that once these, what the FAA considers, critical safety projects with the runway, the taxiway, the aprons, and the clearing are complete, which this project will virtually get the airport into, 100% compliance with the safety elements. The annual entitlement funds that the FAA allots, which is $150,000 a year, can be used for projects that become revenue generating. So in addition to maybe private hangars, there could be some, those funds could be stored and used to build revenue generating projects like T hangars or additional parking spots on the apron. So that's another opportunity for additional revenue stream in the future.
All set, Councilor Steve?
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Daniel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I just want to confirm a couple of things. I just want to be clear. Are these repairs to current conditions, upgrades to current conditions, or both?
This is completely a new airport. They're going to rip up all the runways, all the taxiways, all the gravel, regrade the whole airport to a new elevation to meet the new specs for the FAA, put the compact, the gravel that goes underneath, and then re-asphalt the whole airport. As well as the lighting is all new wiring. So you get a 3,000-foot runway, you get and taxiway, you got wires that are going to be in conduit up and down both of those with all new LED low efficient lighting system as well.
So this will be a brand new airport and will be set for another 20 years.
That's correct. The last time it was done, the runway was done as 1999.
Great, great. I have a question for Ms. Harnoy, if she's still available.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. If I heard you correctly, you said that a bond would go out for 20 years. Is that correct?
That's what we estimated, yes.
And you're saying that the payback would be $30,000 a year for 20 years?
Well, it begins a little bit over about 32,000, then it goes down a little bit underneath to about 20-something thousand dollars. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Chair, I'm going to support this agenda item. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councilor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Mr. Clements or to Ron. When you guys realign the runway, are you able to bring in larger aircraft because of that?
Yes. As a matter of fact, Councilor Adams, we're now beginning to get a lot of small jets in here. And also part of the reconstruction is going to be to improve the navigation. So as of right now, we have lights that help guide pilots onto the runway. It's a system with 2 lights on it. Because we're getting into bigger jet aircraft now, the system is going to be 4 lights, which is required for jet aircraft.
Thank you, Mr. Henry. Now, I do have a question then, or was that Ron? I'm sorry, I apologize.
Yes, it was. Yes, it is.
Okay, so another question then, and forgive me, I forgot. Now, those small jet aircraft bring in a JP fuel, correct? Do they use a JP fuel, or do they?
Yes, they do use jet fuel, which we do not have at the present time. However, when we designed the fuel farm, is designed for a second tank, and what we did is we opted in staying with 1 tank and reviewing the need for aircraft fuel. Also, during that construction, I learned something. I learned from the manufacturer that we can petition a tank. So in other words, the tank we have now is 8,000 gallons. We can take a second tank and petition it so that we can use 2,000 gallons of jet fuel, and the other 6 would be regular aircraft fuel. And then if the need increases where we need more jet fuel, we can actually bore holes through that petition and convert it 100% to jet fuel. So we'd be taking the jet fuel in a small bite until see what our actual need is, and then we can decide what we're going to do with the rest of that tank, because it would have its own. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Fluff. So I'm assuming with that jet fuel, the JP fuel possibly coming in to the airfield, that's another asset for you, an increased income for your revolving account, correct?
Yeah, that would actually be a big deal. I'll give you one example, Councilor Adams. I gave it to the subcommittee last week. Late last fall, I had a small jet come in from Dallas, Texas. It happens that it was the treasurer for Aubuchon Hardware, who has a store in Southbridge, has a store in Webster. They also just started a business in Charlton where they lease trailers for tractor trailers. And he came in to come in for the opening, the grand opening for the new business. So I had a good chat with him, and I asked him if he would be willing to send me a letter saying that whenever he comes into this area that he would be purchasing jet fuel from us, and he absolutely said he was. He was a real nice guy, and he says, when I get back to Dallas, I'll do that. And by golly, he did. I have a letter on my desk right now from him, and I'm sure that there's others that would definitely come here.
So it seems like to me, besides your revolving account that you currently have right now, and then the solar panels that are out there receiving some of that income, and then with the possibility in the future of increasing your assets within the town, within the airport itself, it does look like you can make that $30,000 a month payment, or a year payment. But that being said, does it leave you, I mean, first of all, I'm in support of this, but does this, I guess my only concern, does this stop you from doing other projects, constant maintenance on the facility itself, upgrading, because you may be coming up short, or you may be just making it per year to pay this off? Will it stop any projects that you have on your capital plan?
Well, let's say that Mass DOT has been very generous to us over the last 6 years with the equipment that we need to maintain vegetation, keep the grass cut, and anything that we need. So I don't see or foresee a need to buy any further equipment because we've got everything that we need there.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pluff. I appreciate it. I am in support of this. I'm just asking questions, maybe to the public, for future assets, because I do believe this airport is a pillar of one of many pillars of our community. And I know in the past there has been some skepticism of keeping the airport by other counselors who are no longer on this council. But I just wanted to push that out there to say that I do support it, and that there's other assets and possibly upgrades as we move along in the near future. So thank you, Mr. Clements, Mr. Henry, and everybody involved in this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other councilors? I just a couple comments. I have to Councilor Lazo and a few other councilors' point. A lot of work has gone down in the airport. It is one of the best airports in the area. It is important to the overall transit aeronautically in Massachusetts. I commend the Airport Commission and the town manager for coming up with alternative means of financing this. Whatever revenue comes into the airport is town money. It is still coming to the town of Salbridge. It's just where it's going to be used. The only question I would have, I support it. I would want the finance department and the town manager to look at how we're going to fund this. I'm sure there is means within the town that we have the ability to fund it. I personally, if we can find ways within our free cash that we have right now, sale of a prior building that we may have some pools of money that we could take of. I would rather do that, because I'm looking at this, and I'm no accountant. I'm not the finance department, but said 20-year bond at $30,000 per year. That's $600,000 to pay off $385,000. Granted, it may go down. So I took that and said, okay, what if it was average $26,000 over 20 years? What would that be? You're still wasting taxpayers' dollars to do this. So if we have money that we're able to do this in the budget, I'm all for saying, hey, okay, airport, give us your money. All right, airport, you pay the town of Southbridge back, the town general fund account, or whatever account we take it out of if we're able to do this. Because to waste $215,000, we always hear from councilors that money could be spent better elsewhere. Well, this is a case where I would be opposed to flushing that money down the toilet, where that money could be used elsewhere. And we work cooperatively with the Airport Commission to come up with how we will fund this. That's my personal opinion on that. So if that can be done, I would certainly support it. But tonight it is to the submission of the grant. I'm sure the FAA will, or the feds will, give us the grant. The only question I have is when it comes off, Mr. Clements, when it comes off to the signature section of this, who's authorized to sign this? Is this the Airport Commission that signs it? So if we're voting to approve the submission of this grant application, is it you and the town manager? Or is it, I think vote to approve the transmission is fine. Just want to make sure that we have the right authority to submit that application on behalf of the town. Mr. Clements?
In most instances, I've initialed things or signed them, but the town manager has the final say on it. So it's all the town manager would have the final approval. He's the signature that you want to have on
okay.
He's on the grant.
Okay, thank you. Just want to make sure that we are granting that as well to authorize on behalf of the town. Councilor Lazo?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'm glad you brought up that in-house financing if it's possible. Again, you know, wasting the money on interest and on a bond. I hope that we look at it hard where we can do it in-house. It would be a perfect storm. So I just wanted to compliment you on that. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Councilor Marquetti?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would have to agree with you. I think it would be better if we did it in-house. I mean, we have plenty of areas we can get the money from: free cash, stabilization. We just sold the Wells building. There's also a landfill royalty funds. I think we should do it in-house. I agree with you on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Just for the record, I think this is the first time you agree with me on Council Marquetti. No, I'm only kidding. I got right. Council Marquetti to laugh. All right. Any further discussion on this?
If I may,
go ahead, Melissa.
It's Melissa.
Go ahead.
I just having done grants like this in the past, it is often a requirement of receiving the grant application award to show the appropriation. So I'm not familiar with this particular one through the federal grants, but because they require a match, they're going to ask for that vote as part of the application that we've set aside funds.
Mr. Clements, I know we've done a number of these grants.
Yeah, in the past on the FAA, they've asked. That's where I had to sign off, and the Airport Commission secretary signs off, and they're asking for in the past they've asked for the minutes of the Airport Commission, which we voted on this last week and approved both these same items as written here tonight.
But you don't have the money.
we're
You don't
approving the
have $350,000.
I make a motion, we take it out of free cash.
Second,
There's an amendment that the money would come out of free cash. Is it, any discussion on the amendment? Council Ryan?
Just a refresher, how much is, to either the finance director or to the manager, how much is currently in free cash?
I believe it was 1.8 million.
Okay, and
Karen?
yeah.
Right, is that correct?
Yes, I think it's $1,791,000, something like that. Yeah, almost $1,008,000. And we did take something recently from free cash, I believe.
That was for the overtime that's now being reimbursed for FEMA, right?
No, that came from the town council reserve. But if anything, it was minimal. So we still have probably about $1,700,000 in free cash.
I mean, if the vote, Mr. Town Manager, or if the vote is that we just have to show an appropriation at a later time, can we change that appropriation location?
I don't know the specifics of that, but my gut would tell me that if we have indicated a willingness to fund it, if we find an alternative source at some other point in time, by the time the grant application comes, this should get us through the application process if in fact they do require it. But when it comes time for the actual acceptance and then we have to come up with the money, I think at that time it would be appropriate to amend. That's just what my instincts tell me.
Okay, thank you. So there was an amendment to have the money come out of free cash. I know in the previous grants, I didn't think we had specified the appropriation was being appropriated right away, but that's fine. So do you have a problem with this, Mr. Manager, the way it is to get this grant in? With that amendment?
As I've indicated in the last answer, I don't think that we're going to be required to put that money forth for a good 6 months. If in fact they need to show that we're willing to do it, we've expressed our intentions. We have the money there if we had to do something with it or earmark it, but it gives us the time, assuming we will get the approval, which prior conversation, Mr. Henry, I hate to quote him all the time, as I always says, we're 99.9999% assured that we get these grants, but that would give us the opportunity to look if we wanted to explore those other options such as in-house, because at that time would be when we would have to put in our portion of the funds. But right now, this shows that we're committed to the project, but it would give us the time to develop alternatives.
Thank you. Councilor Daniel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. In my mind, I don't know that we need the amendment because the agenda item, I think getting back to what Mr. McCall was saying, because the agenda item doesn't talk about the basis of the funding. All it says is that we're matching 5%. It doesn't say anything about where the money is coming from. So I question whether or not the amendment is necessary.
Councilor Lazo? Councilor Lazo?
I understand what Councilor Daniels is saying, and I think he's correct. But I'm in favor of doing it tonight to show the commitment and set that money aside now. So there are nothing happening later where we are committed. We're showing our commitment. We don't have to, I understand that. But I think that I'm that serious about this project with the airport that we put it forward, and there is plenty there to get it done. Thank you.
Yeah, and to Councilor Lazo's point, I mean, if it goes into next fiscal year, hopefully the three councils that are still here are still here next term, but you may have a different council sitting that may have a different look on it. So this commits the town to the project. So I think that's Councilor Lazo's point. Would you agree with that, Councilor Lazo? Councilor Steves?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question to you, to the manager or to Karen. So if we were to vote for this, taking it out of free cash now, would you be dedicating an account and basically just let it sit there in escrow until we get clarification from the FAA, or they send back the grant that we would end up finally voting on? Is that what the plan would be?
Yes.
And I do believe that comes out to the next question as well because of the design part. So any further discussion on the amendment? Councilor Ryan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I would actually tend to agree with Councilor Lazo. I think it's smart. I think it sets the initiative for the town. And if anything bad does happen, especially since we still don't know exactly what next year's fiscal outlook or the next fiscal year's outlooks is going to be like, I think it's smart, and I think it sets the town up to succeed in the long term for this development. So I'm in support of the amendment.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the amendment? Roll call on the amendment.
Counselor Catrona,
Yes.
Counselor Jovan,
Yes.
Counselor Lazo,
Yes.
Counselor Marquetti,
Yes.
Counselor Ryan,
Yes.
Counselor Steves,
Yes.
Counselor Adams,
Yes.
Counselor Daniel,
Yes.
and Counselor Dow.
Yes.
Okay, the main motion as amended is vote to approve the U.S. Department of Transportation Federal Aviation Administration grant application for design and construction at the Salbridge Municipal Airport in the estimated amount of $7,690,000 with a matching 5% town share of $385,000, match to be appropriated from free cash. Is there any further discussion on this motion as amended? Okay, none, roll call.
Counselor Jovan,
Yes.
Counselor Lazo,
Yes.
Counselor Marquetti,
Yes.
Counselor Ryan,
Yes.
Counselor Steves,
Yes.
Counselor Adams,
Yes.
Counselor Daniel,
Yes.
Counselor Dow,
Yes.
and Counselor Catrona.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Item 13, vote to ratify Stantec's task order 2 in the amount of $689,758,000 to prepare the bid documents, advertise bid, submit IP funding application prior to May 1st, 2021, and authorize the town manager to sign and execute all required paperwork and contracts related to the contract. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Mr. Town Manager, any comments on this one, or Rick? Comments from the airport.
I'll defer right to Mr. Clements and Mr. Henry in the interest of time.
Thank you. Mr. Clements?
Thank you, Chairman Jovan. This is the engineering portion of this job. Like I say, we have the 25% design done. This would bring us to the complete design and put the bid package ready to go out to bid by May 1st. Stantec would take care of all the engineering for this, as well as the bid documents. And then once we get we get advertised, once we get the contract prices back, then we go submit to the FAA for the grant funding.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this? Councilor Steves, and your recommendation from subcommittee.
We did vote to unanimously recommend it, and I just wanted to clarify something through you to Rick. So just to clarify, if I understand properly, that when you go through and and assuming we do get the grant, FAA grant, Stantec will be the one that's actually overseeing the construction of the project as well, right?
That is correct. About half of this cost is overseeing the project.
Right, that's what I thought. Okay.
Any further discussion? Say none, roll call.
Counselor Lazo,
Yes.
Counselor Marquetti,
Yes.
Counselor Ryan,
Yes.
Counselor Steve,
Yes.
Counselor Adams,
Yes.
Counselor Daniel,
Yes.
Counselor Dow,
Yes.
Counselor Catrona,
Yes.
and Counselor Jovan.
Yes. Okay, good luck with the application. Look forward to that improvement at the airport. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 14, vote to accept the Local Rapid Recovery Program Technical Assistance Grant. Authorize the town manager to sign and execute all required paperwork, contracts related to the grant. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Second, Councilor Adams, Planning and Development.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate it through you. 10 items, number 14 through 17, were voted unanimously upon on February 17th. And I'll give a shot at this. This is one of two grants that the Ms. Dean and the town manager applied for. And it's good to see that we actually received both of these types of grants, not only just the LRRP, but also the urban grant as well. So I will pass that on to the town manager or Ms. Dean if they need to.
Mr. Town Manager.
Good evening again. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to let Ms. Dean do a lot of the talking, but she and I spoke earlier before the meeting, and one of the things we just want to emphasize is some of these monies, if not all of them, are coming to us through the efforts to deal with the pandemic, and some of them are coming through us because the money is there in this particular fiscal year coming from the state. So there are requirements that these funds be expended in short order. So one of the things that we ask people to keep in mind is that we need to be able to get the approval so that we can go through the RFP process to find the necessary parties to do the work or the consultants for, there's going to be several different grants, but then bring those people back to you for approval of these contracts and awards. So as you listen to Ms. Dean, just keep in mind that we're trying to do this as effectively and efficiently as possible to ensure that we get the most out of these grant awards and get the necessary paperwork done so we can get these underway by the end of the fiscal year to appreciate all the money that's been awarded to us. With that, I'll hand it over to Ms. Dean.
Hi, Peg. Good evening.
Good evening, Chair. Just quickly, you received a memo. In the memo, we talk about how we were awarded, just as Councilor Adams had said, both the LRRP and the urban agenda. We've been recommended by the state to apply for both. We've now been awarded both. We're going to recommend, Eric and I have spoken about how to best use these funds. If the town's interested in accepting both, we focus on, for the LRRP, vacant storefronts and how to get commercial buildings up to code in the downtown, and for the urban agenda, focus strictly on redevelopment authority. And so I hope you'll approve these.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Okay. Roll call.
Counselor Marquetti?
Yes.
Counselor Ryan?
Yes.
Counselor Steves?
Yes.
Counselor Adams?
Yes.
Counselor Daniel?
Yes.
Counselor Dow?
Yes.
Counselor Catriona?
Yes.
Counselor Jovan?
Yes.
And Counselor Lazo?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Item 15, vote to accept the urban agenda funding grant in the amount of $72,000 to promote economic development in the urban renewal area and authorize the town manager to sign and execute all required paperwork contracts related to the contract. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Peg, do you have anything on this?
Sure. Just as a friendly reminder, all these items were approved. The applications were approved on 12/14. The applications were presented for specifically for the urban agenda to be able to hire a consultant, to be able to hire an intern, and to be able to do culturally inclusive programming at the Central Street parking lot pedestrian plaza. And so we've been awarded and will pursue for exactly what we presented in the application. And we hope you'll approve that this evening. As the town manager said, the time is of the essence because there is the delay in having to pursue the requests for proposals and then bring those back to the subcommittee and town council. We hope you'll approve them this evening.
Thank you. Just so you know, Peg, the council will do whatever it has to do to speed this up in a timely manner. Whatever needs to be done so that we can get these projects ongoing, because it's great work on behalf of your team down there too, and the town manager to get these done. So whatever we have to do to move it forward, we will do as a council. So, okay. Any further discussion on this one? Councilor Adams?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to reiterate that I've been a big advocate of the redevelopment authority here in town since I was on it a few years ago. And this, hopefully, by hiring this temporary position, will educate the redevelopment authority and along with the town staff so to go forward, use them as a major asset within our town. We've seen multiple towns utilize the redevelopment authority in a positive manner. And I look forward to this happening. One thing that was consistent when we discussed both the LRRP and the urban renewal, the urban grant, was the fact that we as a town sometimes have a tendency of bringing somebody on temporarily and then keeping them on as a full-time position down the road. And one thing, at least from my standpoint, was I am not in favor of hiring this individual on for a full-time status. When their time is up, their time is up, and we need to move forward from there and grab as much education as we possibly can for the benefit of our town. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Counselor Ryan,
Yes.
Counselor Steves,
Yes.
Counselor Adams,
Yes.
Counselor Daniel,
Yes.
Counselor Dow,
Yes.
Counselor Catrona,
Yes.
Counselor Jovan,
Yes.
Counselor Lazo,
Yes.
and Counselor Marquetti.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 16, vote to accept the Mass Department of Transportation Shared Winter Streets and Spaces Grant Award of $230,950 to promote a more walkable Salbridge and authorize the town manager to sign and execute any and all required paperwork contracts related to the contract. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion on this, Peg? Do you have anything else on this?
No, I hope that the documentation provided was very clear what was excluded, as was advocated by Councilor Marquetti in the initial vote. The hay bales and the blankets were not funded, nor were the sound system or the hardware software for the vendors. I look forward to seeing the town pursue this the grant award. And as I said in the subcommittee meeting, I'm very proud. I feel like this is a big win for the town, and the collaborative effort of the town manager, the DPW, and the subcommittees to get this, to bring it forward in time was impressive.
Thank you. And just for the public, the council had reviewed these in their entirety at a previous meeting, so we're not rushing through these. These are the execution of the contract. So these were all vetted through a prior meeting in case a new person is coming on board, just saying you're going through this and you're accepting all this money. There is a video of it and documentation that we did vet these out through the full town council, just for the public's knowledge. Is there any further discussion on this? Seeing none, roll call.
Counselor Steves,
Yes.
Counselor Adams,
Yes.
Counselor Daniel,
Yes.
Counselor Dow,
Yes.
Counselor Catrona,
Yes.
Counselor Jovan,
Yes.
Counselor Lazo,
Yes.
Counselor Marquetti,
Yes.
and Counselor Ryan.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 17, vote to ratify the VHB agreement for engineering services totaling $14,150 to design the 5 Mass Department of Transportation Shared Winter Streets funded rapid flashing beacons. Authorize the town manager to sign and execute any and all required paperwork contracts related to the agreement. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Second.
Motion second. Peg?
Yes, I guess I would ask if there were any specific questions related to the quotes, but otherwise, I hope that, again, the documentation provided was straightforward. We pursued 3 quotes and VHB came in lowest. They are currently the engineer for our Main Street construction and have already designed one of these rapid flashing beacons for Main Street at the post office, hence probably coming in much cheaper than the other 2 engineering companies.
Any questions, comments? Councilor Adams?
Just make note, I appreciate Ms. Dean and the hard work, and Mr. Rumsey for all the hard work putting these the shared streets in for this round. I wish we would have been able to do it the last round as well. We could have probably seen a little bit more funding coming our way. But I just want to say thank you, because this caveats, like Mr. Lazo, or Councilor Lazo has mentioned before, the parking lot from hell. Though I don't agree with his comment all the time, I will say that all of these are coming together for our central core, and I just appreciate it. There's a process in place, and thank you very much, Ms. Dean and Mr. Rumsey, for your consistent push to get these grants for the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely going to be a different Main Street look come the fall. Peg?
I do also want to highlight, we've sat through Complete Streets presentations, and what we've heard over and over again is that Complete Streets does not fund rapid flashing beacons when it comes to doing funding projects. And so the shared streets was this anomaly of opportunity to be able to fund both the engineering and construction. So I feel like that's doubly a win for us.
Good.
Excellent. Thank you, Peg. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Counselor Adams,
Yes.
Counselor Daniel,
Yes.
Counselor Dow,
Yes.
Counselor Catrona,
Yes.
Counselor Jovan,
Yes.
Counselor Lazo,
Yes.
Counselor Marquetti,
Yes.
Counselor Ryan,
Yes.
and Counselor Steves.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you, Peg, Eric. Look forward to, and Mr. Town Manager, look forward to all that work getting done. Thank you.
Thank you.